Hello CoH fans, I'm KG, and this is a Comedy Fuse Gamecast. And what else could it be, people? So, for today's game, we got players Seph and NosliwReborn on a vanilla matchup in Angeville. So, it won't get any more standard than that. So, we are paused at the 5-second mark, and we'll be unpausing in 3, 2, 1, go. So, as I was saying, a vanilla matchup on Angeville from the latest revision of the beta patch. It's not a retail game. NosliwReborn plays as the Wehrmacht and Seph plays as the Americans, and they are south and north respectively. So, pretty standard stuff by either of those players, building their first combat unit producing structure, their barracks and their Wehrmacht quarters. And, the real interesting thing will be to see whether one of them rushes for a fuel. And we have a winner, and that is NosliwReborn, that goes straight to the west portion of the map with his second squad of pioneers, and will try to cap the high fuel point there. Seph opens up with no particular attention to rushing any portion of the map. He just caps the high munition point to the south of his base and the low fuel point to the east of his base. So pretty safe opening by him as well. All these rushes have that risk factor in them, in the form that sometimes you can be counter-rushed, and there's a little bit of microgame and luck involved in who is going to win that fight. But we have none of that here. Although the engineers are going to meet up with the pioneers to the west high fuel point, although the Wehrmacht forces will have soon the help of the Volks that have closed in on the engineers, and those engineers will eventually have to retreat or just back off from the territory. As we saw here, NosliwReborn built some sandbags before starting capping the fuel point, so he's pretty safe from the initial fire of the engineers, and he did not took that much of a damage on his pioneers. First squad of riflemen out by Seph, and rushes to the strategic sector to the north of Nosliv's base, although it's not of no strategic importance up to now because Nosliw did not even bother with the east portion of the map. And second unit out by our Wehrmacht player is a bike or a motorcycle, and usually you see that coupled with an MG42 for forward scouting and helps you position your MG42 better, or even push out some riflemen and hinder their advance towards the MG42 so the MG42 can suppress them. But it works pretty well with some Volks as well, usually in the form that tries to push riflemen out of cover and give Volks the advantage in the rifleman versus Volks fight. Third unit out by our Wehrmacht player is an MG42, and pretty bold move by Seph, trying to move into the Wehrmacht player's base by kind of using or abusing, if you will, the gap that is left between those two bunkers whenever a Wehrmacht player spawns in the south of Angeville. Riflemen trying to harass the high fuel to the west are pushed back by the bike and take fire from the Volks, and will have to eventually, retreat, although they do make use of the cover of the sandbags that our Wehrmacht player built a little bit earlier. MG42 now moves out of the base after having dealt with the unusual kind of threat of the riflemen trying to walk into their base, although the number of riflemen is such that Nosliw actually has to retreat with his Volks and his pioneer squad. So eventually Seph is going to take back portion of the west of the map, and he will surely decap, if not cap, for himself those two high resource points. Now, once again, as I said, Nosliw does not pay any attention to this portion of the map, and Seph has complete control over it. He even started laying mines to those choke points. Whenever the Wehrmacht player wants to access that portion of the map, he is probably going to walk into them, unless he, of course, his research is minesweepers. And the unit order being produced now by the Wehrmacht players, of course, Volks, Bike, MG, Volks. So that's pretty cool. Incorporating two MGs in your starting forces is probably must gonna give him enough suppression power in order to fight off some flanks. And here we have both pioneers by our Wehrmacht player running into mines. Fortunately for him, none of those squads goes down, although their health will be brought down to significantly low, and in subsequent engagements they may have to retreat far earlier than they would otherwise. Two riflemen being pushed off by an MG42 and some folks in the west portion of the map, but they did their job just fine. Their purpose was to harass the Wehrmacht player and take back that territory, and that's exactly what they did. Another Wehrmacht player kind of regroups his forces, and with two MGs in the game right now, he will be feeling kind of safe for any incoming future flank. Attacking wise, I should mention here that the American player Seph has kind of been rushing for a motor pool, and he started building at the 6-minute mark, almost at the 6-minute mark. We are currently at the 6-minute, 9, 10, 11-second mark, and he will have his mate out pretty soon because his fuel income was quite high for a large portion of those first 6 minutes of the game, specifically because he had the whole east portion of the map as well as the high fuel point in the west for around a minute or two. So he now attempts to kind of scout with one of his rifleman squads, leaving his other one just to the south of his base, near the strategic sector there, behind heavy cover. The Wehrmacht player forces are kind of clamped up together. The MGs have set up. They face to the north and to the northeast, I would say. Although the one of them just packed up and moved a little bit forward, anticipating, of course, an incoming flank. However, the flank won't be of infantry alone, because the first M8 is out by our American player at the 7-minute mark, and it's going to be troublesome for the Wehrmacht player to counter it, because he does not have any anti-tank or anti-vehicle out, and the only thing that he could actually use is Panzerfausts by his Volks, or some mines that he could have probably laid down, but I don't see any mines unless I'm missing something, which could very well be the case, because I am that much of a noob. So M8 armor car being upgraded with both the armor scares as well as the gunner on the top has managed to inflict some casualties on the Wehrmacht player, although the MG42 positioning by him was kind of pretty good and forced a retreat of the American infantry. However, the M8 is still around at full health, almost taking down an MG42. Actually kills the MG42 on the retreat. No gun for the Wehrmacht player to recruit there. So it seems that the M8 has paid for itself. And now it's time for it to back off, since it took two Panzerfausts, but it will be promptly repaired by those engineers by the high munition point. However, a second M8 is on the field. Probably it will get upgraded with the armor skirts as well as the gunner, or, well, maybe the armor skirts alone. Panzerfaust being used by the Volks. This time, however, the M8 is in pretty good standing. It won't have to even back off for those. Although it does seem to be doing so, Seph maybe is playing a little bit safe. He could be anticipating an 80 gun by our Wehrmacht player, something which is actually true, because Wehrmacht player responded to the M8 threat and built his tier 2 and got his first pack gun out that now make its way to the west portion of the map. Once again, I should point out here, Wehrmacht player not really dealing with the east portion of the map, victory points ticking down for him, now at 418 against 491. No resource income from that portion of the map. Seph has everything he needs resource-wise in order to tech up and build even more units. A bunker, however, has been built by our Wehrmacht player. The MG42 loss to the M8 has been replenished by another MG42, and those two MG42s, two Volks, the bike, and the Pioneers are still around. No losses except for that MG42 for our Wehrmacht player, which is kind of cool to see, considering the fact that Wehrmacht forces kind of tend to be inferior to the American ones, at least the infantry ones, the tier 1 infantry ones. However, as I said, and as we have witnessed, Seph did not really opt for rifleman upgrades. Instead, he rushed for those two M8s. Those two M8s that I really would like to see them being a little bit more active, although he may, as I said, be anticipating a pack being around, but still, a pack won't destroy those two M8s on its own. They can even be used in a flanking role, in a vehicle flank. A flank that we may be seeing coming here. The bar upgrade has been researched for those riflemen. However, the spread of those two riflemen does not seem to be enough for them to withstand the suppressor of the MG42, although the M8 have moved in from the west portion of the map. One of them has to fire from the pack, but will survive because the second M10 actually decrewed the pack. Riflemen still hanging around in the east, although taking fire from the MG42. They did manage, however, to destroy the bike. The bike that, even if the American player was not focusing the bike, which is something that was probably the case, the targeting priority would, of course, mean that they would target the bike anyway. Second pack out, this time hanging a bit behind the bulk of the Wehrmacht infantry force, and took some shots on the higher health M8 and forced a retreat on it as well. M8, as I said, survived that previous the packs and managed to decrew one pack and kill the crew of an MG42. This time, however, the MG42 is not gone forever, will be recruited by our Wehrmacht player, who has opted for a defensive doctrine, which means, of course, that he can reinforce from the med bunker. And he will quickly recruit the pack and then the MG42 and bring his Volk squads back to full members because of that same bunker. Third unit out of the Krieg barracks for Wehrmacht player seems to be a grenadier squad. Well, wait and see if they get any upgrades, any weapon upgrades on them. I don't really... if the Wehrmacht player would like to play it really safe, I guess he could go for even a Panzerschreck on those grenadiers. And as we know, in this revision of the beta patch, Panzerschrecks are really a bit more accurate against the M8s, as well as usually stationary M8s, as well as moving M8s. M8s are now back to full health after having been repaired, and kind of a flanking move by our American player. However, two of his rifleman squads were clumped up together, and they actually fell prey to the suppression fire of the MG42, and the remaining two that were trying to approach the Wehrmacht position from the west and from the east will have to retreat in the face of taking unnecessary, of course, losses. And considering the fact that the American player does not have a dry center up, those riflemen, at their health levels, they could die really fast. And surely the manpower war, especially against a Wehrmacht player that has a defensive med bunker up, is not really something that you want to do. So, and we also see that Seph has not opted for a supply yard upgrade yet, which means that his riflemen not only won't be getting vet any faster, but his manpower income will be starting to get to low levels, unless, of course, he gets some supply yard upgrades. Situation for our